Today we're going to be talking about complaining and how to stop doing it. And the first thing to know about this is that when I say complaining, I'm not just talking about the kind of complaining that you do with your mouth. I'm also talking about the kind of complaining that you do with your mind, right? So mental noise, mental thought loops that generally revolve around whinging or moaning about just something that is not the way you want it to be in this world. This is something which I have found has affected my life greatly, but I've also found a number of different strategies to deal with it. And that is what I'm going to be sharing with you in today's video. How to stop this mental nonsense that we call complaining, or could even be called kind of inner complaining. So the first strategy which I'm going to talk about here is just becoming more mindful in general, because one of the most important things about complaining, at least I've found, is that it's something that kind of creeps up on you, right? It's not something that you necessarily consciously go into. It's more that you sort of slip underneath it. You become unconscious, and it's only afterwards that you really realize, I just spent the last few minutes mentally thinking about something which I have no real business thinking about or complaining about right now. And becoming more mindful in general can allow you to recognize when you are starting to enter one of these headspaces. Now, something to recognize about these kind of headspaces is that, at least in my experience, the things that you're complaining about might not be so different from what's come before, right? You might actually have several different kind of themes or topics of things that you'll complain about to yourself. And learning to identify what these are for you could be really powerful and helpful. This has been really helpful for me because these days, whenever I start to enter one of these more complaining type headspaces, if I can recognize that it's around a certain theme or topic that I've been inner complaining about before, it allows me to sort of instantly recognize where this is going and kind of snap out of it. So learning to identify what these kind of general themes are for you could be really, really powerful. So the second thing that you can do to try and deal with these kind of complaining and negative headspaces is to actually complain more, but do it in a different environment and do it in a more structured way than what you're doing at the moment. If you're constantly complaining while you're supposed to be doing something else, while you're supposed to be doing a task, or you're just trying to get on with something else, or you're with friends, or whatever it is, if you're complaining here, then it's probably not going to be very productive. But if you can kind of take these thoughts and put them out of your head, out of your system, and into something else, that can work really well. So one of the most powerful tools that I've ever come across for dealing with this and doing this is journaling, right? Writing some kind of journal entry either every night or at regular intervals, or even whenever you really need to do it, right? That is one strategy. Another is making videos. You can talk to camera, you can do it in a structured way, you can do it in a very free-form way. But the idea is that you take what's in here and you kind of just put it out there somehow, right? A great way to do this can also be kind of just having what are essentially talking therapy sessions with your friends. I'm sure we've all done this, but the reason why this can help is that although you're kind of complaining to them in a sense, there's someone else there to kind of bounce ideas off you, and you can kind of work through these issues together, and it makes it a lot less lonely of a process, and it's generally just a lot more enjoyable as well. So the basic idea is that you take what's in here and you kind of just flush it away, right? You just flush it and it's gone. So the third strategy for dealing with these inner complaining habits is to basically just try and do things that lift your mood in general. Because if you can basically make yourself feel better through something like exercise, through something that's just really fun, socializing, just anything that lifts your mood, you're less likely to go to these headspaces in the first place. And if you can create these kind of changes as a lifestyle change, right, just generally improve your life, then even if you're not directly working on whatever it is that you were complaining about, you're actually going to be making it less likely that you'll go to that headspace in the first place, because your life is generally better. So, you know, you don't have to actually address the problem directly that you're complaining about. You can just work on other things and watch as that has a positive impact on that side of your life as well. The fourth strategy that I've used to basically deal with this complaining issue is to recognize that whatever you're complaining about most likely isn't as bad as you're making it out to be, right? Is it actually that much of a big deal? Or are you making a problem out of something that doesn't really need to be? And if it is a problem, is it a big problem, or is it just something minuscule? because everyone makes mountains out of molehills, and if you can realize that this is just something that the mind does, then you can work towards resolving it, right? Sometimes just becoming aware of the nature of a problem helps you to resolve it within your own mind. So yeah, recognizing that you might just be complaining about something which you have no real business complaining about. That can just really help, because it helps to just diminish these problems into kind of non-relevance, right? That's the fourth strategy. Now, the fifth and final thing that you can do in terms of dealing with this complaining issue is recognizing that if you can't change something, there's nothing productive in wasting time thinking about it in a very complaining type way. Recognize that complaining basically doesn't really do anything for you, right? This kind of runs counter to what I was saying earlier about how you get it out in a structured way. If you do that, it can help, but that's the difference, right? If it's going on in here, if it's just going round and round and round, right? If it's doing that, you're not actually doing anything to better your situation. Once I recognized this, I really just stopped complaining. Not completely, but it definitely helps, right? It definitely helps to reduce the problem. Once you realize how much of a waste of time it actually is, you'll feel less of a need to do it, and you'll be more willing to put your energy into more productive activities or things that just make you feel better, or just that are fun, right? There's loads of things you can do. Essentially, recognizing the nature of the problem, I found, goes a long way towards solving it. So those are the 5 strategies. I've put a summary of this in the video description. And look, the main thing to recognize here is that you can work on these issues, right? You can make progress. I found that if I just compare myself to my teenage self, the amount at which I complain about things has just like plummeted. It's gone through the floor, right? But generally these things don't happen by themselves. Oftentimes you have to make them happen. And that's why these strategies exist, right? That's why people have invented these. That's why I've invented stuff for myself. You know, you can find stuff that works for you as well. I can't give you the answer necessarily. There may be things here which are useful to you, maybe which aren't as useful, but basically just recognizing that there is an answer to some of the questions that you're having, and yeah, that people have made progress and that you can be one of those people. So that's basically it for today. I really hope that you managed to get on top of this complaining issue and kind of manage to just enter a headspace where this kind of thing doesn't really happen as much anymore, right? You'll never get rid of it completely, but what if we could keep it down to 10% of what it was before? That's the question to ask yourself. That's it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.